There are so many eyeshadow palettes. How will I choose what to get rid of when I have formed emotional attachments to most of them?
Hello! Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. That was super sweet of you. I am overwhelmed. I am very overwhelmed. I am stressed. I am confused. I'm very overwhelmed because my makeup desk is dirty. It is a mess. It is both dirty and unorganized. There is both actual dirt and grime in addition to just the complete lack of organization that is this space. So I thought that it would be a good idea to force myself to organize my desk by making a video about it. I've already made a video organizing my makeup collection. I will link it right up here if you're interested in watching it. But that time I decided to do my entire makeup collection all in one video and it was very overwhelming, so I'm not gonna do that this time. I'm gonna take it sections at a time, and for this video I'm going to be focusing on exclusively eyeshadow palettes. So if you like organization videos and if you like watching a Virgo suffer for 15 minutes, then please keep on watching. I'm overwhelmed already. Okay, so the first palette, some of these are easy. You couldn't pay me to throw away my So Jaded palette. You could offer me $1 million home. That's not true. You could offer me $1 million home. But I love this palette. This Kathleen Lights X Colourpop So Jaded palette has a beautiful array of colors, like many of which I have nothing like. These are just such unique jewel tone shades, and I love the whole concept and layout of the palette so much. I am absolutely not getting rid of it, and I use it quite often, so that is going in the keep pile. Another easy one, the Tati Beauty Textured Neutrals Volume 1 palette. I put this as my favorite eyeshadow palette of the year 2019 because it is my favorite eyeshadow palette of the year 2019 and presently, because the shades just perform so beautifully. Like, it's such a high quality palette. If I need to put together a look really quickly and I need to rely that the products are gonna help me work quickly, I reach for this palette because the mattes are just so easy to blend and it's just such a cohesive, like, easy to work with palette. Like, it's just, there's so many different combinations you can do in here. It has so many good solid neutrals in it in the sequin shades. I'm not gonna talk about this palette too long because I did scream and shout about it for like 5 minutes in my best of 2019 video. So if you want, you can go check that out. But I love this palette. It's my absolute favorite. Not getting rid of it. Moving along to everybody's favorite from 2018. This was actually my favorite from 2018 too. The James Charles X Morphe Unleash Your Inner Artist palette. Here it is in its large girth. I feel very differently about this palette in the year 2019 than I did in the year 2018 when I said it was my favorite, and that is just because I have tried so many different formulas of eyeshadow since then. Morphe just doesn't really hold a candle. Like, the quality is not as good. The only reason I really keep this palette around is because it has some shades I don't have anywhere else. Like, I don't have any blues like this. But the quality is just not super easy to work with, so I would like to in the future invest in a higher quality colorful palette. Like, I know Viseart has a really good one, I know MAC has a good one, because I do love having all of these bright colors easily accessible to me, but the quality of this is just not my favorite. Long story short, I'm keeping it, but I'm not happy about it. So the next palette I want to talk about is from a brand called Nomad, and it is their Berlin Underground palette. I got this in my Ipsy Plus bag back when I used to have an Ipsy subscription, but unfortunately they suck. And I've tried to make it work many times. I really tried to give this palette a chance. I've tried to like mix it in with other palettes that I know work well, to just maybe like use like 1 or 2 shades at a time. It's weird. It's like they don't blend at all, or they blend into nothing. Like, some of the shades blend really patchy, and then some of the shades are just so not pigmented that they just like disappear as soon as you start blending them. The quality of this palette is bad. It had potential, but it is bad, so I'm getting rid of it. All right, the next palette I want to talk about is from the Balm Cosmetics. This was another one that was sent to me in my Ipsy Plus bag, and it's not just an eyeshadow palette, but it's also a face palette. So it has like 4 eyeshadow shades, and then it has a highlight shade, 3 blush shades, and a bronzer. And I was really excited about this at first because I love the idea of like an all-in-one palette. I think that's so cool, but this is just not a practical palette for me. The blushes are too little. I can't get my whole brush in there. The bronzer is way too little. I always end up dipping into like the eyeshadow by accident, and then it ruins my whole face. And just the colors of the eyeshadows are not unique enough to justify me keeping the whole palette. I'm gonna pass on this palette. Yay, back to easy ones. It's the Jackie Aina Anastasia Beverly Hills palette. Oh my god, it is my favorite. Well, I said the Tati Beauty one was my favorite. My Tati Beauty one is like my most used, but if we're going off like palettes that I just think are wonderful and people that I think are wonderful, it's the Jackie Aina palette. Because I've been watching Jackie for years. I love her so much. She's a big inspiration to me, and I just think this palette is such a culmination of hard work from her, and it's so well thought out. All of the colors are absolutely beautiful. I love every single color in this palette. I've used every single color in this palette, and the shade sponsored, like, come on, come on. Come on, it's so good. I love this palette. I love Jackie. I love this palette. Makes me feel happy when I look at it. The packaging is beautiful. I'm gonna keep it forever. All right, next up is another Anastasia Beverly Hills product. It's the cult favorite Modern Renaissance palette. I got this palette probably about a year ago. Obviously, I love this palette. Look at poor Cypress Umber. I used to use that as my brow color, so it's like very well loved, very well used. I used this palette and I was like, oh, this is what it feels like to use high quality eyeshadows. They blend themselves. This is amazing. I use the neutrals from here the most. I also really like Real Guard. That's a good shade. Red Ochre is a really good shade. I don't get much use out of these purples just because I have other palettes that I like the tones better. Like I like the purples in the Jackie Aina palette much better than these. I do still reach for it a lot. I used it for my eye look today. I am wearing Warm Taupe in my crease with a little bit of Cypress Umber as well. And then I'm wearing Vermeer all over my lid, and it's super quick and easy to do. These are just really high quality shadows. This is a great eyeshadow palette, and I will not soon be getting rid of it. All right, moving on to my Colourpop palettes. I have decluttered a lot of Colourpop palettes, and yet I still have a lot of Colourpop palettes. So let's get into it. The first one is the Sweet Talk palette. I love the packaging on this. They released this back in May, I think. It's like a spring palette. Very cute, but this was really exciting. I ended up buying this because it was the first palette they ever released with a Super Shock shadow in the palette, and I love the Super Shock formula. They normally come in those little pots, which I have a few of. I love them very much. I think they just amplify every eye look, and they make the lids look wet, and they're just so pretty. So that's why I bought the palette. It also has 2 pressed glitters in it, which I know not everyone is a fan of because they're not technically eye safe, but I do put them on my eyes very gently with a gentle hand, and I like them a lot. I haven't been reaching for this as much lately, but I think that's just because it just like screams spring to me. But I do love this palette. I don't want to get rid of it because it's very pretty and I like it a lot. All right, next up we have the Proceed with Caution palette. This was a collaboration with Makeup Shayla and Colourpop. I bought it because I really like Makeup Shayla, and I like this yellow shade right here, and I didn't have any yellow in my collection at the time. Fortunately, I now have many yellows in my collection, and I rarely ever reach for this just because I feel like I have all of these colors already, and I feel like I have formulas that perform better in these colors. So I like Makeup Shayla, but I am not going to keep this palette. I'm sorry. Alright, the next palette is the Mar palette. I think this one was released in the summer of 2018. They released the Mar and Soul palette. This one was the Ocean, Soul palette was the Sun. It's very cute packaging. I totally bought into it, and I bought this one because I didn't have a lot of blue eyeshadows at the time. But now I do have to say, I don't think these are the best blue eyeshadows in the world. The matte one in particular is not super easy to work with, and the shimmery blue one is very chunky. I find the shimmers in here are very chunky, except for the shade El Rey, which is my favorite eyeshadow on the face of the planet. I am obsessed with it, and I have kept this palette for a long time because I am obsessed with this one shade. I also like the Seafoam Green shade. I don't have anything else like that, so I really like this And what I think I'm going to do with this, I've been wanting to get a magnetic, just like blank, empty palette for a long time because I want to take all the single shadows that I like, especially in Colourpop palettes. There's so many of these palettes that I like one shade. So I think I'm going to get one of those and just pop this one out and this one out. So this is going to go into my To Be Broken Apart palette. So yeah. All right, next up is the Colourpop Doubleentendre palette. Just a really basic neutrals palette here. I really like this when I got it because I didn't really have I guess a basic neutrals palette. And I think that if you don't have a basic neutrals palette, or if you're looking to start dipping into the world of eyeshadow, maybe you're not really an eyeshadow type of a person, but you wanna try your hand at it, I would definitely recommend this palette. Formula is pretty good, it's workable, but for me, I have the Tati Beauty palette, so I don't really need this anymore because the Tati Beauty palette is better and more diverse. So the last palette I have to go through from Colourpop is the Give It To Me Straight palette. And I was really attracted to this palette when I first saw it because of all the rosy tones in here. I really like the burgundy colors we got going on, a lot of like pinky, reddy shimmers, and I just thought the color layout was really beautiful. But I'm not gonna keep this because, again, the Tati Beauty palette has all of these colors and more, and they perform better. So maybe I should just change the title of this video to the Tati Beauty palette replacing everything I own, because I just don't need this anymore. All right, last up in my eyeshadow palette declutter are my Huda Beauty Obsessions palettes. I love how little these are. I think they are so cute, and I like that they are a smaller option in comparison to her really large palettes, because I think that these are really good for traveling with. This one smells like mushrooms. I hate it so much. I hate so much about the way the Coral Obsession smells. I hate mushrooms, and this smells like mushrooms to me. I don't know why. Can anyone on the Huda Beauty team tell me if there's mushrooms in here? When I got the Sweet Talk palette, I was like, wait a minute. Very similar, right? I'm going to keep this palette, and I think what I'm going to do, instead of getting rid of this palette, because if you look at the Sweet Talk palette and the Obsessions palette, I like more of the shades from this one. And these shades they blend a little better. They're a little higher quality. So I'm gonna keep this entire palette, and I'm gonna move the Sweet Talk palette to my desecration pile. The pile which I wanted go in and pop them out and put them in an empty magnetic palette, because I can't part with the Super Shock and I can't part with these glitters, but I can part with everything else. So that is a plan. All right, I had to go off camera to think about this Mauve Obsessions for a while because I really wasn't sure if I wanted to keep it, but I'm deciding to keep it because I think that it has a lot of unique shades in here. It has a really nice deep purple and a deep red and a deep burgundy, which I don't feel like I have in any other palettes. Honestly, in the two Colourpop palettes I just got rid of, I have those shades, but they're not as good a quality as this one. The shimmers are really unique and interesting, and I like to sometimes create a purple smoky eye with this, and I feel like it looks really pretty. And you know what? It's small. I'm keeping both the Obsessions palettes. You can't tell me anything. All right, we have made it to the end. I am done decluttering my eyeshadow palettes, and you know what? It feels good. Let's go through what I'm keeping, what I'm getting rid of, and what I'm breaking apart. So, for things that I am keeping, 2 Huda Beauty Obsessions palettes, 2 Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes, Jackie Aina and the Modern Renaissance, my Tati Beauty Texture Neutrals Volume 1, and my Kathleen Light So Jaded palette. I love these all so much, I can't part with them. For the ones that I'm getting rid of with no qualms whatsoever, the Balm palette here, Shayla Colourpop palette, Doubleentendre Colourpop palette, Give It To Me Straight Colourpop palette, and this Nomad palette. Goodbye, don't need you anymore, got enough other colors. Then moving on to my most interesting category, which is the palettes that I'm gonna poke apart and hopefully put into an empty magnetic palette. I have the Sweet Talk palette here, the Mar palette, and I have a few shades I like in here, and then I ended up moving this one to my desecration pile and out of my keeping pile because I just feel like there's really only a few shades in here I reach for, really just the pinks and the blues, but everything else I'm like, meh. So yeah, so I am keeping 6 palettes, fully getting rid of 5, and pulling just a few shadows out of 3. So really, it's I'm getting rid of 8. Pretty good work by me. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a big thumbs up. That helps me out so much. By liking this video, you let YouTube know to recommend it to other people, which is very kind, and I would love that and appreciate it so much. So also, don't forget to subscribe. It's free and it's fun, and I would love it if you did. So thank you so much for watching. I post new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I love you. Goodbye!